Hello, welcome to the Dead Air Dudes. I'm Izzy.
I'm Raka, and you are Dead Air Dudes Nation. Thank you for liking, subscribing, and joining us today. We have a treat in our ongoing series of true crime, Master Criminals, Evil Persons.
Part 21.
Wow. Legal.
Yes. Today we have Adolfo Castaño. Oh, I'm sorry.
Forgot his middle name.
Adolfo de Jesus Castanzo.
How ironic.
Okay. So, yeah. Born on November 1st, 1962. Let's get into it. All right.
And it is no secret, and of course, this will lead into all the things we're going to get to today. His alias
was
the witch doctor, or better known as the godfather of Matamoros, El Padrino.
Good pronunciation. Yes. He was responsible mainly for human sacrifice and ritual torture, among murder, obviously. His number of victims is 16 officially, but it can go to as many as, 74, 76?
It's in the high 60s, and we'll get into why. So it actually is a big question mark as far as his actual hand or the group he ran with.
Yes. Now, this is a sordid tale, which, I mean, if it's a movie. It's a made-for-TV movie. I mean, because it is out there. So, but it's true. It's true.
And this is rather recent. We're talking about late 80s, mid to late 80s.
I was active, between 1986 and 1989, he really did all this stuff. So
was not an old man. He was born in 62.
And I mean, spoilers, he died at 26. So he was pretty active in his young age. All right. He was born in Cuba, Cuban American. Actually, no, he's Cuban American.
Actually, he was born in Miami.
Yes, he was born.
But his mom is Cuban.
There you go.
Cuban immigrant. Very odd that his mom had two other children, in total 3 children with 3 different fathers. Each one dies.
What a coincidence. We'll get into that.
I'll leave it at that.
Go on.
And the Costanzo's father passed away when he was just an infant.
Mm-hmm.
And then she moved to San Juan, Puerto Rico. That's where she remarried and had husband number 2. And I believe it's while at Puerto Rico that although he was baptized as a Catholic, they made frequent trips to Haiti.
Yeah. The thing is that even though he was baptized Catholic, his mother was maybe not an official witch, but she definitely practiced. Let me get this correct. I want to get the name correct. Okay.
Palo.
There you go.
Mayombe. I hope I'm pronouncing that.
Mayombe. All right.
Yeah, forgive me if I don't mispronounce that, but that is basically a witchcraft. Not quite sure if it's devil worship.
It's kind of like voodoo, and it's, I guess, based off of that. Don't quote me on that.
It involves heavy animal sacrifice.
Yes, definitely. So now, because we've researched a couple other, for different sources or whatever, and Mama was arrested 30 times. Okay, so she was going from place to place and always got probation. Now, she claimed, or people claimed, that she was a witch. And every place she would go to, she would leave all kinds of, in the houses and the apartments,
right,
all full of ritual sacrifice.
Markings, blood.
And she claimed that it was because of her religion, quote unquote, that she was never caught and merely got probation. So, that's, which would lead into good old Adolfo to find his mentor and his godfather, who really taught him the ropes. Take it away.
And this is at the age of 10,
mm-hmm.
where the guy, his, I guess what you call it, teacher.
Yeah, he was a sorcerer's apprentice or something.
And taught him everything as far as casts, spells, rituals, the principles. It's loosely based on amorality. To get material gain, you must sacrifice animals and possibly people and things, basically to make yourself bulletproof, protection-proof, and successful. And it's all for monetary gain. It's no shock that this is hand in hand with the drug trade that Mama has been involved in. The Haitian priest was involved in, and he ultimately became involved in.
Yeah, through his stepfather, godfather, or his mentor, as the sorcerer supreme, as we put it. Now, also,
he at the age of 18, and this is hearsay, again, because it gets very shady. He predicted the unsuccessful attempt on President Ronald Reagan's life.
His mother believed him to be psychic, but he could not see his future, but he could see other people's future. So,
and again, rumors abound. It was sort of said by the high priest that, oh, this kid is special. This kid is destined for success, leadership, everything you want to call it. Now, my personal opinion, this, much like any other occult, is rooted in brainwash.
Touché.
So it's very, very believable for me that, Elijah Craig, very believable for me that the priest was just manipulating this all along. And as you'll come to realize, hopefully as this show progresses, Constanzo is a master manipulator.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Like PhD times 10 on how to manipulate situations, people, orchestrate the entire thing to make you believe he is supernatural.
Up until the moment of his death, he manipulated people.
And some say thereafter.
In 1983, he devoted his life to Satan, or the definition of Satan within his religion. And at that point, he got ceremonial and religious scarring all over his body. And he said, and I quote, "My soul is dead. I have no soul." And at that point, he devoted his life to evil for profit. Okay? So.
And that's when he met his cohorts, Martin, Quintana Rodriguez, Omar Orea Ochoa, and Jorge Montes, which some say not only were they his partners in crime, but also his lovers.
Yes, that's the funny thing. Well, not funny how, but funny, curious. He went to Mexico City for modeling. Good-looking guy. He went to Mexico City in the area of Zona Rosa, which is typically at that time full of prostitution and all that stuff. That's where he met, like he mentioned, Quintana Rodriguez, Montes, and Omar Orea. Now, at that point, Jorge Montes was a quote-unquote psychic who also happened to be gay. Now, at this point, not that it matters, but it goes into later on what also transpires. Adolfo starts to mingle and starts to believe starts to lean towards his bisexual side and starts to accept more male advances and male company as opposed to female company, which in turn he had Rodriguez and Orea, and on whatever whim he had for the day, one would be the male, one would be the female.
Yeah, it turned out to be some kind of accepted threesome.
Exactly. It was a menage a trois.
It was good for them, and it was good to go. But as business partners, or you want to call it occult partners, they began a ritual cleansing service and a psychic service to provide not just predictions, but in trade of animal sacrifices, they can, and it's all ranked according to, I guess, rare species.
When they found his journals, at first he started off doing limpiezas, which were the cleansings, like individual cleansings. Then he had like Raka said, they had a pricing scale. They would go $4,500 for a single ceremony. Okay, then for roosters it was $6 a head. For goats it was $30. For boa constrictors, $450. For zebras, $1,100.
Yeah, how you get your hands on a zebra and a lion cub?
Now, this is the one that threw me off. I'm like, probably threw you off too. African lion cubs for $3,100. Now, where in Mexico City do you get a fucking African lion cub?
Which is why this episode is not just, unlike others, where there are serial killers who are hiding in plain sight and they're normal, regular, average folk who are doing their dirty deeds on the side. This is full embracing of the underworld. And everything the underworld entails, which is the cartel, the drugs, human slave trafficking, prostitution, crime, theft, corruption, torture. And like you just mentioned, torture, and like what you just mentioned, shaking people down, everything. But what you just mentioned, also the illegal, I would say, illegal rare species or endangered species trade.
Cartels.
Yeah. So actually, and you've seen this in many, many cartel movies, especially those documenting very high-ranking, historic drug dealers. Larger than life. There's nothing their money can't buy.
Of course not. No.
We talk about today Bill Gates' money and Tesla money and all. These guys at that time had more money than these guys have now. Cocaine business was bringing in, I don't know, $1 billion a month, maybe more in equivalency to today's. The money was so out of control. There's stories of Noriega and other people where they didn't even have enough place to put the money.
Now, let's not say that he was at that level, but at this point in time, he was charming wealthy drug lords.
Oh, he was moving up.
He was convincing them that he could help them out by putting magical spells on them to be invisible to the cops, to be bulletproof to other cartels, and all around good luck. To the point that even one dealer gave him $40,000 within a 3-year period for quote-unquote magical services.
He was very masterful in the sense that he would stage. He was a showman.
Yes.
He would stage events where he would predict the outcome when this elaborate ceremony, and the ceremony had to be big time, like visceral, had to be in front of everybody, cloaks and everything, the blood, the sacrifice, chanting, incantations, the whole nine. But he had predetermined results so that he would say, oh, this person is going to get shot and killed. And then they get shot and killed days later. So you have the underworld going, he's right.
Dude, of course. I mean, it's like anything else. I mean, you begin here, and you need to keep going up. You need to up the ante, to the point where.
But he played them all well to the point that they bought in hook, line, and sinker. He had people in the police, the federal police equivalent of the FBI here. He had them buying into his stuff. He had politicians, judges, everybody in conjunction with some of the big ballers of the drug trade in Mexico.
When he was already established and becoming bigger and bigger, like in 1985, they started to, as you said, trying to get bigger and bigger. So you know what? We need to up the ante. We need to get more power. So him and his, cohorts started to raid graves, rob graves, and dig up the bodies and the bones, and put them in a cauldron, what they called a nagagna. I probably mangled that, but yeah. And this is the cauldron where the supposed power came from, at least what has been, witnessed.
Hey, bones make some good soup.
Yeah. At this point, like Rocco mentioned, he also did have four ranking federales police on his roster. Two in particular, which were very powerful. One was Salvador Garcia, who was the commander in charge of a narcotics investigation, investigation. And Florentino Ventura, who was retired from, as Rocco said, the Federales, and he led the Mexican branch of Interpol. So you got two big dudes, two bigwigs in
his pocket,
in his coat, and the devotion of his followers was so great that they would die for him. He had them, like you said, in the palm of his hand. And the thing is, it wasn't just talk, because for whatever reason, it came true, or at least
if he set up something, especially if torture and death of others, yes, it would happen. Of course, unbeknownst to them, it's his henchmen at work orchestrating the whole thing. And so he's proving himself to be this all great soothsayer. Now we fast forward to 1986, where, like you mentioned, he's got a taste for it. He's getting recognition. He's feeling all that his religion believes. He's almost self-living his prophecy of being this great thing that he's now introduced to members of the Calzada family. It's a crime family.
By this point, he was already attributed to about 16 murders unofficially at this point. So, but go on.
And it could be more because,
of course, I mean,
this is not to disparage Mexico or Mexico City, but Mexico City is 20 million strong, and such poverty, overcrowding. You don't count numbers. And it's from this stretch of time, and even beyond, where they found bodies tortured and with patterned sacrificial markings and all the proof forensics-wise of this satanic cult, if you want to call it. And so, although they cannot attribute 100% the astronomical number, it's in the hundreds of these bodies that they found, they're very similar to the bodies that were, the condition of the bodies that were found and attributed to his hand. So, tied, if you will, you may not say, oh, it's direct, it's his actual hand. You don't know if he gave the order. You don't know if he presided over it, but he's most likely involved. No. So the thing is,
it's not,
he gets big with this family, and he starts gets
another family.
Yeah, and he starts giving them services. He starts telling their fortune. He starts cleansing them, puts curses on other people, their enemies, whatnot. He gets so big that the next year he demands full partnership, 50-50. you know, there's a big difference. You know, this is not to make light of it. You know, like Aladdin and the evil priestess that wants all the power and the money recognition. I mean, he got really big. He's not manufacturing drugs. He's not selling the coke. He's not looking for protection. He's providing this so-called magical service. He wants 50. So they say, get the fuck out of here.
Sorry, you know what's nuts? I mean, you have these big, tough freaking cartel dudes. And then you have this dude who, for all intents and purposes, looks like, a model, whatever, with the long flowing hair, talking about magic and spells and Satan and all that stuff, telling you, oh, I want this and this. I mean, it's almost like saying, okay, hey, it's like back in the days, you see a freaking wizard talking shit to you while you're going to war. It's like, really, dude? I mean, what the heck? And you want
50?
You want 50? You want 50? Nah.
Yeah, just get the fuck out of here, you clown. So, for many reasons, to save face, to show his strength with another family, to exact revenge, all the above, his minions kidnap, torture, and kill 7 members of the Calzadas family.
Well, I mean,
bodies,
they vanished, and then they showed up. What was it? 6 days in pieces.
Many parts removed, including fingers, toes, brains, and in one case, a portion of the spine.
Oh, and you forgot to mention sex organs were also removed.
Yes. So one can deduce that these were not removed post-mortem.
Yes. No, he really...
Oh, he went to town. He went medieval.
Enjoyed to torture and mutilate.
He had a penchant for...
Something that he really enjoyed.
In fact, later, some of his minions, it's not more of a confession, but more very boastful and proud. They admitted that he loved, Costanza loved to torture people. The more painful, he said, the more powerful, the spell, the product, the benefit. So he did not want slow death. Very seldom did he just shoot somebody and it's over. He wanted them to drag out death as painful, as slowly as possible. That was his thing. So these people did not die quickly. They found also, I guess, in the place where the bodies were found, they found what amounts to a bunch of like burnt candles, some kind of ritualistic setup that was basically his signature. You know for it without a shadow of a doubt, this is him. And basically, don't mess with me.
Yeah, basically.
And for what it's worth, I think it gained him clout.
Of course it did. It kind of eliminated the Calzada family, and it led him into the Hernandez cartel.
Now, it is this time that I guess is, if you want to take it from here, that he meets the godmother.
He meets
La Madrina.
Alderete.
None other than Sarah Alderete.
Yeah,
Which she was a 6'1" tall woman,
yes.
Very athletic. She actually was academically sound, holding many jobs, working in very charitable organizations, working with kids. Mm-hmm. She was dating some other drug guy, right?
Dating a real piece of work called Gilberto Sosa, who was a Brownsville drug smuggler. Now, Aldrete was a Mexican national who had, obviously, U.S. She went to school in the U.S. Okay? Now,
She was in a border town, so they went back and forth. This border town was back and forth. But she...
Check this out.
Yeah, here we go.
Chance, she's driving. She gets cut off by a car. And that car is Costanzo. They meet and they talk, whatever. Now, at that point, Costanzo starts being interested in her and not stalking her, but interested in her and then whatever. But she was with Sosa, who, rival drug guy. So there's an anonymous phone call to Sosa saying that Andrete was cheating on him, and he dumped her. She's heartbroken, runs to freaking Costanzo, and ends up in his bed, which in turn she takes to the Palomayombe, Palomayombe, and becomes the Madrina. And the rest is history.
So, again, in a calculated move, Costanzo knew all this, was apparently stalking her, was apparently getting information on who she's dating, who she is, what she's into. He had orchestrated this entire meeting and had predicted how the outcome would be. Without knowing, he had planned everything and somehow manipulated her to be so enamored by his visions, prediction, himself, his aura, stole her away from the other guy, Sosa. And almost overnight, as they say, she apparently became an expert on all things witchcraft, demons, Satan, the cult, rituals, and whatnot, where friends and associates of her were like totally at back, like, what the hell happened to you?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden now she becomes basically second in command. Now, oddly enough, tidbit here, whether it's not time, but shortly after, I don't know what kind of, magical power, pun intended, that he had. He did admit to her that he has preference for guys.
Exactly.
It's still okay with her.
Yeah.
And whether you like it or not, or you believe it or not, she's full force in bed, whatever word term you want to use it, into this situation. Criminally.
Funny. Later on, she tries to deny everything when caught, but we'll get
too late, lady.
To that later. And before we forget, obviously, please like, comment, subscribe, and a little too late now, but as a warning, be advised, language and descriptions of this video, but if you're here with us so far, okay. If not.
So now we have him, we have her. He's got a lot of clout now. He's running his own drug trade. He's got a lot of people buying into him, a lot of big cartels. He's in business with them.
Now where he, establishes his whole...
Well, that's the big thing.
Base of operation.
In the rancho of Santa Elena, in the Mexican desert, this is where this, for all intents and purposes, did him in, but it also was his main killing ground. Killing ground, sacrifice, ritual, temple, whatever you want to call it, as well as also his drug cachet. And again, it's not uncommon for them to just pick up a random stranger.
No.
For the hell of it. They weren't literally asked to do it, but I think they just got so routine with it, and they think that they can do whatever they want. So power got to their head, and we're leading into the downfall.
Yeah. I mean, they were so reckless that in 1988, he sacrificed his own disciple, George Gomez, because he accused them of snorting cocaine in direct violation of his ban of drug use. And they also killed the nephew of one of the Hernandez brothers, just like on by mistake. Oh, sorry.
Too late.
Too late. But, as Rocka said, enter Mark Kilroy, which is the beginning of the end for Costanzo and crew.
All right, so we should set this up again. The ranch is in a low-end part of town. Low-end meaning prostitution, poverty, drugs, anything you want, you can get there. On the U.S. border side are universities, colleges, rich kids. Sometimes they would travel in on spring break. I mean, this is akin to Tijuana, and you'd have cheap, fun, at poor people's expense, do whatever you want, including crime, get away with it, go back home. This has to be said because it's part of what played into here. And I'm not accusing the victim of anything. He just happened to have come through an American Texas pre-med student, Mark J. Kilroy.
He was a junior med student. And being, American, he was also from a affluent family. Okay?
Very affluent family with not just money, but influence.
Exactly.
They hobnob with a lot of politicians, heads of states, corporations, judges, whatever you want to call it. The family had influence. They literally killed the wrong person. They killed prostitutes and orphans and everything else. Nobody missed them, unfortunately.
But it gets even crazier because why did they kill him? Because at this point, Costanzo said, you know what, we need a little something extra for the cauldron.
He wanted the brain.
We need the brain of a white guy.
And so, unfortunate for
Mr.
Kilroy.
And though, yeah, you got a pre-med student, you got a brain, but you missed what was attached to all that. And the fact that it would rain down on you and all of the political leanings and the backings from and the shitstorm that Matamoros got at that point, up to the tune of $15,000 reward for his son.
And a lot of pressure came down from the Texas politicians to the Matamoros police and those of influence. They're already embarrassed at how things have always been in the state of the town and the area, that they themselves had enough of this shit. Unfortunately, as it comes out to be explained and discovered, that Kilroy suffered a machete blow to the head, obviously to get the cranium and get the brain out.
Head open and the brain came out. When they found the remains, his brain was in the cauldron.
Well, among other things, body parts of other people.
Spiders, snakes, and and bears and dogs all die.
Here we go, people. On April 1st.
Yeah. At this point, sorry to cut you off. One last thing. When they actually picked up one of Costanzo's henchmen, and the dude spilled his beans, which
yes, on April 1st, Serafin Hernandez Garcia.
There you go.
He refused to stop at a checkpoint. He just blew it. His henchmen totally bought into the culture.
Yeah.
They were bulletproof. They had connections. They can do whatever. They can piss on a cop. Nothing would happen to them. So they didn't even think any mind of it. So they blew past the checkpoint, and then he was detained, and was actually rather proud and adamant about saying, nothing's going to happen to him. You can't shoot me. You can't prosecute me. You can't keep me in jail. Almost laughing at the police. Meanwhile, the loose lips were going. Yeah, we did this. Yeah, we did that. Yeah, we did all this stuff.
Oh, this guy, yeah, we killed, no, we killed freaking a white boy. Yeah, we killed him because he won the quote unquote good superior brain for one of his ritual spells. Oh, so they raided their freaking ranch and they found all this shit. Keep going.
I mean, terrible. But as they kept going through the ranch, there's like body upon body upon body, and everything starts getting recovered. I think this, in total, discovery of 15 burned bodies. Some claim it was over 25 because you can't tell you find parts and you find parts that didn't fit. And then, so it could be anywhere between 15 to 25, possibly more. We don't know what was thrown away, what was eaten by dogs and wild animals. We don't know what was in the cauldron, because the cauldron now, everything gets cooked and decayed and deformed. I mean, nasty stuff.
I mean, and who knows? I mean, who knows what they did, man, with some of the bodies? You didn't even know. And the messed up thing is that Kilroy, he actually tried to escape, and he was stopped by two guys dressed in police uniforms. But obviously, he was down with Costanzo. So he gave himself up, and they brought his ass right back. Machete to the head.
It was over.
Game over. Obviously, they found Kilroy's body, skull, Sans brain.
I mean, thereafter, the police searched Costanzo's personal home in Mexico City, where they found a hidden torture chamber in his condo. Costanzo was not there, obviously. But upon hearing the news, him and 4 of his followers planned to flee Mexico. But at this point, everybody is on the lookout for him.
But wait, there's more. Now, just before he fled, unknowingly knowing the whole backlash, he was still sitting on about 800 kilos of marijuana of product, okay, which he had to take over the border. So he said, you know what? I need something extra. I need a little more juju, so to make it work. So what do you think he did? He had a sacrifice. Now, who do you think he sacrificed? Good old Gilberto Sosa, the Matamoros ex.
Why not?
Everything went swimmingly, and when he thought he was going to get the money back, he never did, because that's when shit hit us the fattest. Carry on.
So he ends up hiding out in many, many places. And then he ends up going to, I guess, what equates to a black house or an undercover safe house in Mexico City still, where he's watching on the news that some people, not sure, I assume it to be police orchestrated as a media ploy to literally burn him out. So they set fire to Rancho Santa Elena.
Nocturnal arsonists, yes. They
and they perform an exorcism.
Exactly. They perform.
I mean, this is the stuff movies are made of.
And set the mofo ablaze.
So
this drives him absolutely.
He's incensed.
Crazy. This drives him.
He's incensed. Now, according to who you believe,
right,
in the apartment room that they're holed up in, his girl, the godmother,
Andrete, yes, Sarah,
takes a piece of paper and writes a note.
Yes.
That she is being held, kidnapped by the bad guys who you're looking for. They're in this apartment. Send help. She folds the note when nobody's looking, flings it out the window. Apparently, someone picks it up thinks it's a practical joke and pockets it and does nothing with it. I mean, again, this is a script, Hollywood. You don't have to do anything with.
I mean, I shed no tears for her. So I mean, if it did happen, oh well.
If it did happen,
So
one can only conclude that being holed up with this psychopath, you think that you're next.
Well, obviously, I mean, what do you think is gonna happen if you?
Well, the story goes.
What do you think is gonna freaking happen?
The story goes, he doesn't sleep more than a few minutes at a time.
Oh, he said
He sleeps with it. Yes, he has an Uzi.
That's because he didn't trust anyone, especially.
Right. So he's got an Uzi with him all the time. Safety's off. You know, I don't know. The wind shakes the curtains, and he gets up ready to aim and fire. So, in total irony, the police are looking for missing child or missing person.
Exactly.
And they're going door to door in the same neighborhood, on the same block that he is holed up at.
Mm-hmm.
Upon looking out the window or something, he hears what's going on. And in his sleep-deprived, paranormal self, with a lot of guilt and everything else running through him and fear and whatnot, he starts opening fire.
Yeah, there's a fire.
Basically giving away. Yeah. Oh, this is like a 45-minute. I mean, you remember Heat? Remember that scene in Heat where just in the middle of the street exchanging?
Great scene. I mean, it just kept going. 45-minute firefight in which I think only one person was even injured.
I think one police officer in the very beginning of it all. Then afterwards, it's just an exchange of bullets.
Here, at this point, there is a follower of him who he nicknamed El Doobie. So depends.
You can't make this up, boys and girls.
Spell it. I mean, you know. So at that point, all of his followers and Costanzo had a death pact, okay, and he was not going to be taken alive. So at this point, he told El Doobie to shoot him and his, his partner at the time. You know what I mean? Which is kind of interesting that he did not freaking say to shoot also, La Madrina, which is kind of fascinating. But that's besides the point here, So, yeah. So, to shoot him and Martin Quintana, right? And at first he refused. So, Costanzo slapped him and said, you got to do what you got to do. I mean, basically, I don't know exactly.
Get a hold of yourself, man.
You got to do this for the patria. You got to do this. So, yeah, he shot them. And the Padrino was dead. That's it.
When it's all said and done, Serafin Hernandez and his brother Elio were sentenced each to over 60 years prison. Unlike many of the other Latin American countries that we covered, I don't think Mexico has that 30-year max. So, I mean, they're holed up to death. However, none were prosecuted for Mark Kilroy's murder.
Which is insane. Now, at this point, Sara Aldrete, she tried to say that she was a victim in all this.
Oh, it wasn't me.
They were like, you're full of shit. So, all the charges from Álvaro de León, which was El Doobie, and Aldrete, who were the only two available there, 14 of the cult members was in total, okay? Like you said, from drug running to obstruction to murder. El Doobie got 30 years. She was convicted of multiple murders and sent to prison for no more than 69 years. Serafin and Elio Hernandez were also found guilty of multiple murders, and they each got, like you said, 60. Okay? Now, these are other possible accomplices which we can't prove the extent of their involvement, but they were there. Okay? Ruben Estrada, aka Patitas Cortas, or Little Legs. Cristian Campos, aka El Panzas, Fatso. Emmanuel Romero, aka El Trompas, fake, big lips. Saul Sanchez, aka El Macao. I guess it's like a toucan or a bird or something. Don't quote me on that one. But and Ricardo Peña, aka El Cepillín. I'm not sure what that means. So
I love it how they all have nicknames. It's like Marvel, Anti-Avengers Assemble.
Exactly. So, I mean, all in all, dude, this was an amazing, insane,
Well,
thing.
Here's where the unfortunate tide doesn't end.
And here we go with Do Tell.
Now,
when you say
again,
and you hear
Constanzo,
here come the end credit scene.
Constanzo did not invent the rituals. In fact, there's a marriage of Haitian voodoo rituals from that sect, also Aztec human sacrifice rituals, all blended into also something I'm sure he on his own kind of conjured up. The thing is, it's always existed. He got leeched on as a child. I'm not shedding tears, I'm not crying, but he got leeched on as a child. He carried on. He believed it. He did it. He performed it consciously, willingly, whatever. Unfortunately, there's over 100, 200, whatever plus number of types of ritual slayings during this time period. But interesting enough, many ritual killings continued after his death and the capture of his cohorts. We don't know the extent of how many followers he actually had. So, as the murders continue, unfortunately, to this day, Sarah, the godmother, has been quoted from prison to say, "You have killed him, you have locked me up, but these will not stop. This goes beyond us." So, he may have also spurred on a new sect, and in many ways, in dying, could have been a martyr for this continuing sect belief system of human sacrifice and torture to gain this bulletproof power.
To add on to that, within 1987, 1989, there were 74 unsolved murders, okay, within that area. 14 of those were infant murders, which is, okay? I'm talking about murders, okay? At that point, supposedly only 16 were attributed to, Costanzo and his crew. Okay. Now, at that same time, the powers that be mentioned that there were many more that cannot, like you mentioned, cannot be attributed to him, but happened by other people. Now, do you think that his followers just disappeared? No.
No, absolutely not. Well, the drug lords haven't disappeared. They just get replaced. El Chapo today. Someone's going to replace him. Somebody's going to replace that guy.
But the freaking head on another head appears, man. So
yeah, and in this kind of subculture, in this world, and not just this world, in Hollywood. Yeah, I said it. In Hollywood, in sports, how many people are so superstitiously attached that they'll do anything for success?
Chicken wing, hot dog and bologna.
So, the unfortunate thing is this ties into that world, ties into the underground drug trade, the underground everything trade, the evil forces that work in the world, the criminal world. Unfortunately, unsolved random murders, check that box. And this, again, as we mentioned before, unlike others, we're just random citizens who are all fucked up in the head. This is so beyond what you can comprehend because he was not acting alone. People bought into him. I mean, multi-billion-dollar drug lords and criminal minds and criminal heads of state said, "If we have a big thing going down this weekend, I need a couple of sacrifices."
It kind of reminds me of, in a way, it's nowhere near the same, but how in the following, you remember the following? How the cult had so many people and they just did all kinds of shit and they were doing everything for Joe.
Zealots.
Yeah, exactly.
And unfortunately, it ties into the terror world too.
So
directly into the terrorist world. I don't see much of a difference.
You don't get a resolution in the sense that he wasn't brought to justice and he took the coward way out.
Yeah. For a person who had a whole belief system that he was invincible,
yes, he didn't really believe it, I suppose.
He didn't last long, and he went down.
The fucking pussy.
Yeah, he couldn't even do it himself. Yeah, what's his name? Kill him. So, guys, gals, everybody listening out there, this is real life. This is documented. Although mostly in Mexico, this ties into U.S. borders and to U.S. citizen and how many countless other missing U.S. tourists who have come and gone to other countries. This ties into the drug trade, anyone affected by drugs. This ties into everything. And this has so many tentacles. But this is The Godfather, a real life, wow, super underground dark priestess, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, there's been many episodes on this, on different shows. Many movies have been based upon this metal band. Don't mean to be generalizing. But even movies, it's so effed up that you're like, wow, it can't be fake, but yet it's completely and utterly real.
Oh man, you're talking about movies are movies. This was real life torture, sacrifice, crazy shit. And unfortunately, the numbers must be higher, staggeringly higher than it was reported.
It is crazy. Come on. To me, 16 confirmed.
Hell no.
Suspected. I'm looking at.
Add another zero.
Definitely, man.
Add another zero to this thing. And again, he's a leader of how many people? And continue to do. If a murder happens today and it's part of his henchmen who led another henchman and his progeny, it's still attributed to him. Unfortunately.
He did all this within what? 22 and 26?
Yeah. Ooh. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this episode of The Evil Which Lurks in Wide Open Spaces. The Godfather. Thank you for liking, subscribing, following, listening to our podcast. Please reach out to us. Let us know if there's something you want to discuss, something you want us to delve deep into, and all things creepy.
Definitely. Thank you all for joining us again in an episode of the True Crime series. And yeah, as Rocka said, like, comment, subscribe. I'm Izzy.
I'm Rocka, and you are Deader Dudes Nation. Have a good one.
Thank you. Take care. Save the whale.